Today I'll be reading from Daniel chapter 10, verse 20. Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. Now it talks about two princes, and these are not human princes, they are princes of darkness. It talks about the prince of Persia that was delaying the angel from bringing solution, from bringing answer to Daniel. But then he said, Michael came to help him so that he was able to break through from the prince of Persia to deliver the answer to Daniel. He's giving Daniel an information about the next assignment he's going to do as soon as he left Daniel. He said, as soon as I leave, I'm returning to fight with the prince of Persia, that's the prince of darkness, and that when he is gone, the prince that controls the kingdom of Grecia will come. From here we know that the prince of Grecia was able to come in, and Alexander was able to succeed because the prince of Persia was taken out of the way. Now, if you read Revelation chapter 11 from verse 8, it says, verse 7 says, and when they have finished their testimony, the beast that are sent out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So here we see another a picture seen by John many years after Daniel saw the coming of the prince of Persia. Now we saw in this place in Revelation that a prince or a power, a beast, will come up and will come out of the bottomless pit. And his mission, one of his mission will be to kill the weaknesses of God, the two weaknesses that will be endued with special power from God, and will overcome them and destroy them. And then having said that, we know, if you look at the history or the story of these two weaknesses, you will know they are not an ordinary individuals. They have power to change the course of nature. They have power to cause rain to fall, to cause thunder to strike. They will have power to cause earthquakes and to destroy armies of the Antichrist. But yet, at the end of their ministry, this beast that comes out of the bottomless pit will be able to kill them in spite of all the power given to them. It means that God will allow the beast to kill them because God will withdraw his power from these two weaknesses. I will get to that, to the two weaknesses one of these days. But now my point is this. One of the assignments of the prince of this prince of darkness that is coming out of the bottomless pit will be to kill these people. Another reference to this prince coming out of the bottomless pit is also found in Revelation chapter 17. Revelation chapter 17 in verse 8 also mentioned this beast out of the bottomless pit. It said, the beast that thou saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. In my next video, I'm going to explain more with the scripture evidences the correlation between the prince of Grecia, that's the prince of darkness of Grecia that Daniel saw coming in those days, and then overthrowing the prince of Persia, and then the correlation between that prince and the prince that Revelation saw here, that's the prince out of the bottomless pit. I'm going to show the correlation and why both of them are the same. But here, I want to focus only on this prince from the bottomless pit. And I'm giving five distinct assignments that he has to do on earth. His main purpose of coming from the bottomless pit at the end time. So as we study along, a lot of things will come in, and I want to say that if you are going to study the Revelation or the study of eschatology, you cannot understand prophecy without understanding history, because we know that some prophecies that were given in the Old Testament have been fulfilled. And what makes us to fully understand the prophecy is to first know the part of the prophecy that has been fulfilled. And then the understanding of a passage or the part of prophecy that has been fulfilled in the scriptures will help us to know the part that has not been fulfilled. Many people take the fulfilled part of the prophecy as unfulfilled, as future. And when you misplace priority, then you mess the whole thing up. So, as I've said, we are considering 5 different unique attributes, assignments of this beast from abyss. Now, number 1, this beast from abyss will come. Remember, we said it will come from abyss, and from the previous video, I've said that one of the reasons I believe is a fallen angel or is a demon is that he's coming from abyss. And I said abyss is not habitation of men, either dead or living. No human has been to abyss before. In my previous video, I already explained that. I gave 4 different destinations of spirits, wicked spirits, both demons, fallen angels, and humans. I gave 4. And I said out of the 4, there are only 2 that are purely for fallen angels. We have, and they are Tartarus, the place of darkness and chain, according to Peter and Jude. And then this abyss that we talk about, which is also known as the bottomless pit. So these are the 2 meant for angels, fallen angels. Humans don't go there. So we know that when the Bible talks about a beast coming out of the bottomless pit, it's different from the beast that is coming out of the sea, because both are coming from different places, and then although they have common assignment to fulfill, they have common destiny, but they are distinct, they are different in entity or in personality. Having said that, this beast from the bottomless pit will come. One of his major assignments is to influence the Antichrist. The Antichrist, you know that the Antichrist is the beast from the sea, is influencing the Antichrist to win numerous battles at the end time. The first battle he will fight will be the battle to win 3 nations in the Middle East. And those 3 nations, according to Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 to 44, he mentioned 3. He mentioned Egypt, he mentioned Libya, and he mentioned Ethiopia. So these 3 nations will first be his attack, will be his first point of attack. And then when the other kingdoms out of the 10 that will be formed at the end time, when they see this man, or how strong he is, they will witness his exploits, they will witness his power, and then peacefully they will make an agreement with him. And that is why Daniel said he will by peace defeat many. He will overcome many by peace, but that's after he must have conquered or must have won by war. So part of the war, you can see that in Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 to 43. That's the war against these 3 kingdoms that he will destroy. Let me read Revelation 17, 12 and 13. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as king 1 hour with the beast." That's the same time with the beast. They will receive kingdom. They will grow to be king the same time with the beast. That's the Antichrist. Verse 13 says, "These have one mind." That's all these 10 kings. We have one mind. They'll be united. And then, "and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So these 10 kingdoms, they will not submit to the Antichrist until they have seen the power, the spirit with which he fights, and then they will submit. But apart from this one, he will also make war against nations north and east of his kingdom. That's after he has taken over the 10 kingdom. The fight for the 10 kingdom will be from the beginning of the tribulation to the middle, because it's at the middle he will take over power. He will take charge of all the 10 kingdoms. Now, after the middle, after he has gotten all the powers of all the 10 kingdoms in the Middle East, he will hear rumor of war from the northern and the eastern part of his kingdom. And what does that mean? That means the kingdom of Antichrist will not be worldwide. I will get there one of these days, because if you consider the image that Daniel saw in Daniel chapter 2, you will understand that in all the description of all this, the image represents the kingdom in their society. It represents all the 7 kingdoms, the 7 kingdoms that we talk about, at least part of the 7 kingdoms, from number 3 to the rest of the 7. He made mention of those ones, and then at the end of the vision, Daniel saw a stone cut out of the rock that hit the image in the leg, that's in the foot. And we know that the foot that the stone will hit, they are the 10 kingdoms. That means the stone will come down at the time of the 10 kingdoms when they are fully grown. And then we hit them. And then you realize in that place says that stone is the one that becomes a mighty stone and fill the entire world. It is only the kingdom of Christ that will be worldwide. I will get there very soon in one of these teachings. So, but for today, we know that when he has taking over all the kingdom in the territory, the 7 kingdom territory of the ancient world, a new enemy, a new set of enemy will arise to come and fight him towards the north of his kingdom. Some people say this north, if people say Antichrist, will come from Russia. I ask, if Antichrist comes from Russia and is dominating over Russia and over the Middle East and over the world, now these people, let me just read that. In Daniel chapter 11, I'm reading from verse 40, and I want you to follow me. He, that's the king of the north, shall enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. The Bible established that some people, some nations will escape from Antichrist. So that is a proof, even that Antichrist will not be in all the nations of the world. He mentioned 3 that will escape from Antichrist. And these 3 that he mentioned will escape from Antichrist, they are going to share boundary with Palestine, with the Middle East, where he's going to rule. They are right inside the Middle East, where he's going to rule. And yet, the Antichrist will not be able to reach them. They will escape. So he will leave this one within his own that are very close to him, and then he will move towards the south, towards Africa. Look at verse 32, in verse 42. It says, he shall stretch forth his hands also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. It's specific. Egypt shall not escape Antichrist. Move on to verse 43. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over the precious things of Egypt. And Libya and Ethiopians shall be at his step. Very clear. After Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia, they are neighboring countries to Egypt. He's going to overthrow them. They are all in Africa, North Africa. He will overthrow them, and then they will be part of his kingdom. Possibly there are other small nations that are not mentioned here, but the countries in the North Africa will be involved. They will be under the Antichrist. Now, it is after the conquering of these 3 nations, these are the 3 horns that the little horn will overcome and will break before the others will submit to him. Now, after the submission at the middle of the month, at the middle of the tribulation period, see verse 44. Another set of enemies are now coming in verse 44. He said, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore, he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and to utterly make a way. This shows that there is another, and for those who say Antichrist is coming from Russia, of course you know that if you look at Russia, Russia is in the far north of the earth, at least judging from Palestine. If you look at towards the north, Russia is far north. Now, if Russia were to be the Antichrist, what country can we say will be this country that is also coming from the north? There is none. This is an evidence that Russia is out of the equation to be the Antichrist. The Bible emphasizes that, in fact, history emphasizes that when the Bible talks about the prince or the king from the north, is pointing to Syria, because Syria and Egypt have been at loggerhead as promised by Daniel. So if they have had series of war in fulfillment of prophecy, and the same prophecy says there will be an extension of this battle in the future, then we should look at Syria as the source of the Antichrist, as the country that will produce the Antichrist. Apart from that, the Bible says this country, this nation is going to be a very small nation, because it's called it a little horn. So when something is little, it means it's going to be a small country, geographically, militarily, and in every other area that you think about. And that is not applicable to America. For those who say Antichrist is coming from America, it doesn't apply to even Russia. It doesn't apply to China, the world power we are looking at today. So I think we need to begin to look at prophecy with a new eye, and to look at the scriptures and to understand what the Bible focuses on, or what the Bible says about end time. So these new countries are going to come against the Antichrist, and they are going to fight against him. This is another war that is going to fight. Apart from this war, he's also going to make war against the saints. Of course, we see that in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 7. It's going to cause a lot of saints to be killed. After he set up the mark, in fact, his major attack is on the Jew. But when the Bible talks about the saints, or when prophecy mentions saints, number one, the saint is purely applicable to the Jews. When he also talks about, it's either he uses the saints or he uses the holy people. You know, he's talking about the Jew. They were the people of God. But then, depending on what is emphasizing in that text, It's also applicable to Christians. It's also going to be fighting Christian nations, because there are a lot of nations that will be writing against his policies. America may be one of them at that time. We are talking of Australia, Canada, or nations that believe in God that are dominated by Christians who will miss the rapture. At that time, some of them who believe will be kicking against him, and therefore he might raise up war against them also. So in that case, we can classify them as saints being persecuted or being. He will kill many. And he said, the holy people he will trample under, he will destroy them, and they will be given to his hand. So he's going to fight against the saints. And when we say the saints, first we are talking of the Jews. That's the primary. In fact, the Great Tribulation is purely against the Jews. That's the Satan's focus. Then the next thing is he will make war against the two witnesses. I'm going to take these two witnesses individually as a topic in one of these places, because it's another aspect that is misunderstood by many. So I'm going to, I will not go into details now. But then there's a major battle. In fact, there are two major battles that is also going to be involved in. One is a universal battle, but the other one is earthly, even though it is universal. At the middle of the tribulation, there's going to be a battle in the heavenly places. And that's the battle to send Lucifer and the host of darkness out of the heaven, out of the second heaven, down to the earth. Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. They were dislodged. That means they will be dislodged at that time from the heavenly places where they now occupy, where they now operate. At the realm where these powers occupy, they will be dislodged, and then they will be cast down to the earth. You can imagine how devastating the earth is going to be at that time. Imagine when now we don't have them here. We can see the extent of evil that is happening. Now imagine when all the demons in their million, remember that 1/3 of the angels of heaven were dislodged. They followed the devil. And imagine the 1/3 of the angels in their millions, all of them coming down to the earth. That is why it says in the next verse, it said, woe to the earth, because the accuser of thy brethren is come unto you, because he knows he has a short time. He knows that he only has 3.5 years left to run, to do whatever he wants to do. So he's ready. And that is why the last period of, the last half of the Great Tribulation is going to be the most terrible period on earth. There's going to be a lot of chaos. Apart from the fact that the Antichrist, his armies, demons, the host of demons and fallen angels will be wreaking havocs around the world. The wrath of God will be coming from every angle, starting from the pouring down, the opening of the seal that will introduce initial plagues and tribulation. And then it will follow the trumpet judgment that introduces more catastrophe upon the earth. And then to crown it all up, there's going to be 7 vials of judgment that will complete the judgment of God upon humanity and upon Satan and upon the Antichrist. And I don't pray that you will be around at that time. And that is why we need to get prepared in order to be ready to exit when Christ comes. Now, on that place, we are also looking at this last battle of Armageddon will be the final battle. It will be the greatest of all battles, where Christ will come to deliver Israel, and then he will establish a kingdom, a 1,000 years rule on earth. Now, one of the purposes of this demonic personality, therefore, is to influence and empower the Antichrist to win all these numerous battles, to fight them, and to win some of them. He will win some, but the last battle, the battle of Armageddon, he will lose big time. Another thing he's going to do is that he will be the prince of Grecia, who was at the time of Alexander the Great and the successions. And then, but now he is not. He has not been on earth. He's not. Why? Because he was confined to abyss. Because the Bible says he's going to come out of there. I said, I am going to give reason in my next video. I'll be talking about why I believe, or what the scripture says about this beast from abyss, why he is the same prince of Grecia that empowered Alexander. I'll be treating that in my next video. Please just subscribe to the channel and then follow me as I go. Now, in this way, this demonic personality is going to empower Antichrist to establish the kingdom he once ruled. There are two animals used to describe Grecian Empire. First is leopard, a leopard that has 4 heads. And also, in Daniel chapter 8, verse 8 to 11, you also compare this same kingdom to he-goat, and this he-goat has a notable horn on his head, and then when this notable horn broke, 4 came out in their place. And that's to explain that Greece will produce a strong and a mighty king in the person of Alexander the Great, and that when Alexander the Great dies, 4 kingdoms will rise, but not to his own power. If you read that passage, you will see describing exactly what happened to Alexander the Great. That those 4 kingdoms will rise, but not to his own credit. They will not rise from his family, from his lineage. So his general, who are not related to him, who are not even entitled to the kingdom, they seize the kingdom, and then they all possessed it in the name of waiting for the son of Alexander to grow. But eventually, one of the 4 generals killed the wife, the queen, and then killed the heirs to the throne, and then they took over the kingdom. And out of all the 4 kings that share the kingdom of Alexander among themselves are, number 1, Greece and Macedon was taken by Cassander. Then, number 2, Asia Minor, that include the current day Turkey and Thrace, was taken by Lysimachus. Number 3, Syria and Babylonia were taken or were ruled over by Seleucus. And finally, number 5, Egypt was ruled by Ptolemy. So this, if you read Daniel chapter 8, verse 21 to 25, there we see that the Antichrist, through the help of this angelic being, will revive the old Grecian Empire. Verse 21 says, the rough he-goat is the king of Grecia. That is very clear. And that the great notable horn in between his head is the first king of Greece, which is Alexander the Great. Nothing can be so clear. Verse 22 says, when the one notable horn broke, 4 horns took its place. And then the 4 horns represent the 4 kingdoms that I've just mentioned. And like I said, out of one of them, the Antichrist must come. So this passage, chapter 11, is a passage that is given. It's a revelation that gives out which division of the 4 the Antichrist will come from. First, it makes us to know there's going to be 4 that is going to come out of the 4 divisions of Greece. And then after telling us it's going to come out of 4 divisions, he now narrows the 4 divisions down to 2 by telling us it's going to be between the king of the north and the king of the south, which is Syria and Egypt, not Russia. Because as at that time, Russia was not even under the Roman Empire. Russia was not conquered by this prince, by Alexander the Great. History has a record. So Russia was not in the picture of the prophecy mentioned here. I think the only place where Russia comes in is verse 44 that I've read, where it mentioned the prince of the nations of the east and the north that will come, that will hear rumor of war against him from the north and from the east, and he will go to fight them. I think that is applicable to Russia. But here, it is clear that the king of the north is Syria. Therefore, in verse 23, it says, in the later time, that's at the end time of their kingdom, in the later time of their kingdom, when transgression are come to the full, that is when iniquity is at the peak. That's talking about end time. A king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences will stand up, this Antichrist. You can see how it's narrowing it down. First, it says it's going to be 4 kingdoms. And then it says there's going to be fight of the 2 kingdoms. That's in chapter 11, verse 40. At the end of the day, the king of the north will overcome the king of the east. And then this king of the north will exalt his heart, and then will become proud. That is this king of fierce countenance. This is Antichrist. He will stand up from that lineage of the Grecian Empire, and then it is a proof that Antichrist, like I said, is not coming from America. It's not coming from Russia. It's not coming from China. Daniel chapter 11, verse 3 to 35 narrows down all these things, like I've said before, from 4 to 2, and then from 2 to 1. And that one is Syria. Also, in verse 24 and 25, the Bible says that this king that will come, this king of the north, that will come, this Grecian king, will overcome many, but not by his power. You can see that in verse 24. He said, he will overthrow many. Many nations shall be overthrown. He will conquer the mighty, but not by his power. He's going to be using, number one, the power of Satan, because in Revelation, the Bible, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, it talks about the dragon giving the beast his throne and great authority. So, but then, the prince that is in charge of this is also part of the kingdom. Therefore, this prince will be active to empower Alexander. He empowered Alexander. Is also going to empower the future prince of Greece. It will not be an incarnation. That these demons will not incarnate Antichrist. No, the Bible doesn't support reincarnation, because the Bible says it's appointed unto men once to die, and after this the judgment. And then there has not been any case. Some people say John was a reincarnation of Elijah. John and Elijah are two different entities. The only thing is that this John came in the power. Jesus says so. That John came in the power and in the spirit of Elijah. They are two different entities, not the same. So Nero will not be the one reincarnating as the Antichrist, and Judas Iscariot will not be the one reincarnating as the Antichrist. Antichrist will be an individual, a person on his own, born, and then for a period, who will be deceived by Satan, the same way Satan tempted Jesus and gave him offer to rule the world so that he will not go to the cross. The same offer will come to the Antichrist as a human being, but because he's an unregenerated soul, he will see it as a great feat, and then he will hook on it, and then he will run with that goal. He will be deceived, and then eventually he will meet his doom. A beast from the sea, therefore, will be the public figure, or the PRO, to the prince of darkness, to this prince of darkness. It will be the face of this beast, or of this prince of Greece. He'll be representing them. They will be at the back, and then he'll be fronting for them. So the beast from the abyss will be a hidden principalities behind Antichrist's successes and wickedness, and will be the one dictating everything, apart from the fact that Satan is the overall coordinator of the activity of them both. Now, having said that, we know that the purpose of this angel, or this fallen angel, is to, through the Antichrist, revive the old Grecian empire, which he once controlled, and then he will want to rule over it indefinitely, which is also the plan of Satan, to rule the world. But this feat will not be achieved, because Christ will cut that assignment short and come to set up a reign, eternal reign on earth. I will continue this topic in the next video. Please subscribe and like, share, and as you do, the Lord will bless you. And let me say, if you are not yet born again, please give your life to Jesus Christ. The rapture will soon take place, and then the saints will go in, and then the whole world will be losing for evil to operate. And I don't want to be here at that time. So you shouldn't plan to be here. And that is why you must get right with God by getting saved and getting prepared for the Lord. Remain blessed.